This week on The Wise Guys.
Financial hardships, a lot of it comes from just a lack of knowledge, just having a lack of opportunities and just having just the awareness to kind of find out, all right, how can I make my situation better? Or how can I even plan for a better situation?
Right.
And you just fall into these, constant traps, just even, it could just be lack of finance, just lack of managing, a lack of budget. You don't even know how, you don't grow up with a financial advisor. You don't grow up with knowing about credit. You don't grow up with knowing about savings and budgeting and stuff like that. So you're constantly dealing with this financial hardships. So I would not agree with those statements.
Okay.
I'm real against.
Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Kevin Anglade, and you are now tuning in to the Wise Guys podcast, brought to you by Flowered Concrete. Check it out.
Yo, what's going on? This is your boy, Kevin Anglade.
And this is Mark Pruden.
And we are the Wise Guys podcast, back for another week. Mark, what's going on, bro? How you been doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's been a good week. Just trying to work on my diet a little bit. Get some fruits and vegetables, smoothies going.
Okay. All right, you trying to get the beach bod for the summer?
Trying to add a couple more years to my life, man.
Hey, amen to that, brother.
90s.
I hear that, man, for sure. Yeah, man. Pretty good, man. I know we saw each other not that long ago because we've been enjoying our holiday break. But yeah, man, back in Connecticut now, and just ready to kind of take another few days off and then get back to work real soon. So just happy to just be around and to be doing my thing. And it's the lady's birthday, so definitely once this podcast is up, I got to go check her out, see how she's doing.
Definitely. Shout out to her, man.
Definitely. Shout out to my baby, Danielle. Love you. I'll see you soon. Cool. All right. So Mark, today's episode, and not just Mark, Wise Community, Wise Guys, Wise Gals. Today's episode is episode 21. This is America. All right. Episode 21 is titled "This is America," or should I say it in the Childish Gambino stance? This is America. Don't catch you slipping. All right, I'm gonna stop right there. All right. So this is America. That's today's episode title. And Mark, we have a very special guest coming on the show today.
Absolutely.
Man, this brother right here, man, wow. I'm going to allow him to, really do his own thing and his own introduction. But this brother right here, Mark, he's another very, very good friend of mine. I don't talk to him often, and that's not out of choice. It's because, we're all so busy in our lives. Even with you sometimes, we often don't talk. It's not because, we're not friends and we're not close. It's because, everybody got a lot of stuff going on, But, yeah. But, this guy right here, man, I remember my conscious awakening back in 2011. I got exposed to Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam and all of these, great militant brothers, during the Civil Rights Movement, and just them trying to dismantle, the powers that be and trying to fight for equality for all black people. And that I think when I was 20 years old back in 2011, that's when my eyes really opened up. And I remember I saw this brother in the library reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he told me it was a great book. So after he read it and was telling me all about it, I went to the Queensboro QCC library to go purchase myself a copy in the midst of school and all this other stuff. And man, I think that book right there changed my life, Mark. I think after reading that book, man, I was just being mad towards everyone. I was like, buck the system, man. Let's rebel, But yeah, I think it was just a great point of a great turning point in terms of my conscious journey and just being a young black man in America, being socially aware of everything going on. But I don't want to talk about that too much. But this gentleman right here, man, he's a few years older than me. I don't want to give his age, you know what I'm saying, because I don't want to expose him. But he's a very, very bright cat, very smart, very, very wise. So happy to be bringing him onto the show today, and I really look up to this guy, man. I really do. I think he's a great brother, and I think his mind in itself will allow for great things to be done in this life. He will impact this world, and I think our fans and our Wise community, our friends out there, our Wise family can benefit from having him on today as a guest. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring on to the Wise Guys podcast show today, Mark and myself, Jerome Davis. Jerome, my brother, man, welcome on to the Wise Guys podcast.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Absolutely, absolutely. Jerome, could you please be sure to give our WISE community out there a 30-second elevated pitch synopsis about who you are and what you do and all that jazz?
Well, okay, so first of all, once again, my name is Jerome Davis. I am now a supervisor. I work for, like, the social services with people who are, like, mentally challenged and stuff, people who deal with schizophrenia, people who deal with autism. It's been very close to me because, you know, I have really relatives in my family that suffer from this, so it's kind of inspired me and stuff to, like, go into this field. Mm-hmm. And I could say I'm an aspiring lawyer. I wanted to go, you know, I'm aspiring to be a lawyer.
You're a future lawyer, man. Speak it into existence, man.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm a future lawyer. You know, those are in the works now. So, a writer, musician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, you're a bit of a renaissance man. I forget that you produce, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe I'm gonna have to. Maybe I'm
try to find ways to express myself.
Yeah, man. Maybe Mark and I will have to talk to you off air sometime about producing a new track for season 2 or season 3. I know Mark hates it, but
hey, man, I love it.
For sure. Yeah, man, we'll talk about it outside of this. But yes, WISE community. Again, the reason why Jerome is on the podcast is because I consider this gentleman right here, this fine young gentleman, a historian, man. Not only is he a historian, he has a very keen, sharp, critical eye about a lot of the things that we as African Americans, or we in all sectors of the community, struggle with and go through in America. And this guy, man, he's really, really good with his dates and facts and things that have happened in this country. So, yeah, man. So it's going to be fun. Let's get right into it, gentlemen. I don't want to waste any more time. Our first segment of the day this evening is government assistance. Is it fact or fiction? Again, government assistance. Is it fact or fiction? And Jerome, since I kind of want to get you acquainted and, kind of, in the groove of the show, I'm going to actually start off with the first question with you. Okay, so the first question is, are programs such as food stamps, welfare, Section 8, or any of these government assistance programs, are they beneficial or detrimental to the development of the African American population and community at large? What do you think, Jerome?
I really feel that's a really great question, because it kind of depends on how you look at it. You know, there's one argument that would say that it kind of kills the incentive for people to kind of like be more successful in life, or do more things in life, or find more careers that are like more financially rewarding. And a lot of times a lot of people have the argument that it cripples the black community. Like, it makes them, like, not have this like aspirations to do bigger things, or find a better job, or be more assertive on life and stuff. But then you have people who, let's say in the working class community, after they work for a couple more years, and maybe they're in their 60s, they're in their 70s, they decide to retire and stuff like that. These things can be beneficial, because when you have a pension, or let's just say if you're on unemployment or whatever, these kind of services kind of help.
Yeah.
It kind of helps. It kind of helps the people kind of, work and live with life and stuff, and because sometimes the finances, you can't pay it when you get paid like let's say $1,000 a week. You can't even pay your rent properly. You can't even pay certain expenses, and with food, it kind of helps out. So that's the way I look at it.
Right.
It kind of really depends. It's a lot of factors that go into it. Age, where you are in your life, family situation. Mm-hmm. So that's the way how I would see it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Mark, same question. Are government assistance programs beneficial or detrimental to the development of our people within the community?
I would say it helps and it hurts, so I can definitely agree. I would say it helps because currently minimum wage is not a living wage, so they do need some type of stimulus plan, just something to enable them to live comfortably. Mm-hmm. Because people without higher education, they sometimes only have access to the minimum wage jobs, and that's not something you can live on in America.
Right.
So they need help with food and housing and stuff like that, but it hurts them because now they're being spoon-fed these resources, and it's almost like they become so accustomed to it, they don't want to explore other options.
Right.
So if I'm in like a low income housing, and let's say the rent is $500 a month, and the government basically says, as long as you make this amount of money per year, we'll make your rent very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make over this amount, your rent's going to go up. That person's going to, intentionally make sure that their income doesn't get higher, so it doesn't screw up their living situation.
Right.
So it almost kind of conditions them to want less for themselves and not want to excel, because then life will get harder.
That makes a lot of.
That's how I feel about it.
That makes a lot of sense. And Mark, you already know who this girl is. I'm not gonna say her name on this podcast, but I was dating this girl. Man, it was a very, very, very rough and tough, tumultuous relationship. But I'm not gonna get into that today. But I was dating this girl who was living in the projects, and her mom, at the time, she was getting into college, and she ended up going to an HBCU, and I think she was home for the summer, whatnot. And I remember I was over there, in fear of my life. And I remember her mom was saying, you need a job, but if you get a job, please, you still technically live here in regards to my tax filing. Please make sure whatever job you get it under the books. Get a job that's going to be under the not on the books, because, I don't want to add any of that extra accruing of cash and surplus of your paychecks onto my filings, because I still claim you as a dependent. And when I heard that, at the time, I was much younger than I am now. This was probably back in like 2013, 2014. I had no understanding of how government assistance programs work, not even a surface level of knowledge. So I was like, that's strange. Why would she say that? So I just thought that was really, really interesting. Any of you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think because it becomes like a burden on the system. You have like so many taxpayers' money just like, not to say it's being wasted, but it's just getting abused. Because you have people who sometimes don't really even need it, and they're just, sucking the system dry.
Yeah.
And this money could be used for more better things.
For sure. Excellent. So we're going to move on to our second question, gentlemen. Mark, I'm actually going to allow you to go first in answering this question. But before I read the question, I'm actually going to read a quote, or I'm going to pull out some information from the Pew Institute. So, gentlemen, according to the Pew Institute, children under the age of 18 are the most impoverished age population of Americans, and African American children are almost 4 times as likely as white children to be in poverty. So I say this information, or I speak this information to provide you with this question, and Mark, I'm going to start off with you first. It's a 2-part question, actually. How do government assistance programs affect the well-being of children? Do they contribute to or hinder the social, emotional, and psychological development of the child?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely affects their development psychologically, because it creates a need for, it creates dependency. It creates expectation from the government. I need help. You need to help me. Where is my food stamps? Where is my this? Where is my that? Because in reality, you are entitled to nothing in this world.
Right.
You have to go out there and get it. I say that and it sounds easy, but it's definitely not easy. But it does, create a dependency. These parents are subconsciously teaching their children, the government takes care of us every month. Don't worry about anything. We're going to get the check. We're going to get the assistance. We're going to get this. We're going to get that. So it's a way of life. And, they're teaching this way of life to their children, and their children will teach it to their children if they don't succeed. So it's almost like a family business. You know what I mean? And I don't hope that's not offensive, but it becomes a way of life.
Right. Right. I get that. I totally get that. Jerome, sound off.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. So I don't totally agree with that, but I don't think it will create like a psychological issue or some like belief that you're dependent on like the government, constantly, and it's like it's being perpetuated throughout. Like it's just like an inheritance. Like I'm inheriting this thought process of just saying like maybe the government will always help you out, and they'll always help us out. But I do think it creates a kind of stagnation, like amongst like young African American kids.
Right.
feel like you know, you get used to seeing life a certain way. You know, you think the government is there always trying to like help you out, or you always have to depend on it, or depend on these services and stuff like that. But I don't think I don't agree with the fact that it stops them or it makes them into poverty. I don't agree with that.
Gotcha. Okay. Mark, do you want to respond to that, or should we move on to this?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that it does this to 100% of the children, but it does, you know, just by watching and observing, these children see that their parents depend on this check, so they eventually depend on it. You know, they know when the first of the month comes, mommy gets that check in the mail. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that, you know, it's hardwired in their brain like I need the government, but it's definitely, they're seeing the process, they're seeing what their mother and father go through, and that is their way of life at that moment. They may change if they, you know, succeed and move forward in life, but if worse comes to worse, they will be doing the same exact thing that their parents did.
I can see. I understand. I still don't agree with it. I think it's too. It can't. It's the country is so large, and there's so many different factors in the country, and there's so many different experiences that it's hard to say. You know, what is that causing? You know, African Americans, or that's one of the factors causing African Americans not to like persevere. Or
no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Or be just to be dependent. You know what I mean? To have this thought process of being dependent. You know, I don't think that's like a factor. I don't see it. You know, I see them pockets.
Right. No, I might have said that incorrectly, but I'm not saying that that's the reason why we're not succeeding. I'm saying that it can create that form of dependency. Not saying that dependency is, you know, crushing us, but it is a part of the thinking because it's a way of life.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I kind of got so caught up in the debate that I really kind of lost track of it. Jerome, did you get a chance to answer to the second question as well, or no?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that both sides did. All right, cool. Ready to move on to the next segment? Sorry.
Yep.
All right, excellent. So, gentlemen, I apologize. Let's see here. Nope, we're not at the next segment yet. One question later we will be, though. So, my next question for you both, Jerome, you can start off first. My next question for you both is, are you in agreement with the notion that America's welfare systems rewards complacency, dependency, while encouraging single motherhood? And is it often deemed as a quote-unquote safety net or quote-unquote poverty trap? And before you respond, I would like to read this. So the libertarian social scientist Charles Murray, in his 1984 book, Losing Ground, he argues that, and I quote, social welfare policies had increased long-term poverty. They pay women to stay single and have babies, and as a result, more of them will do so. Pay them not to work, and you have a double disaster on your hands. End quote. What do you think about that, Jerome? I think we've kind of touched upon this already, but what do you think?
I believe that is a factor. I think it does. You know, I kind of agree with that statement a little bit. It makes me wary a little bit, but I kind of agree with it. You know, from what I've seen in my experiences, you know, a lot of females will kind of depend on, you know, the government for assistance, and rather than doing things for themselves, they'll directly look to these services. You know,
right?
I could agree with that.
Okay, Mark, what's your thoughts on that statement, and as well as the questions in itself? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, I'm not sure if it's like deliberately designed to, you know, have women want to be single mothers, because I don't think any of them want to be in that situation, but it definitely encourages it. It's almost like a reward for being a single mother. So it's very interesting the way they design the program, because it's almost as if, you know, they can do much better alone than with a father present. So it's a tough one.
It's interesting, gentlemen, because I wish I had my notes here, because I would throw some more things at you. But it's interesting. I want to bring up 2 points, and I wonder if this plays into it, and you gentlemen can sound off however you'd like, all right? And after I'm done speaking, whether it's Jerome or Mark, whoever would like to speak first can speak first. As I was compiling research for this episode, I saw that I think in the 1960s, I think, or right at the height of the civil rights movement, the government had, so one of the protocols of the government to ensure that women within black communities received government assistance, one of the requirements was that there was no black men in the house. So there we go. That's what I was thinking. I was trying to come up with a term. So it was deemed the quote unquote man of the house rule, so where like the government would do these periodical checks on the household, and if the father was living in there, if the father was living there, then the mother would be stripped of her cash assistance in regards to taking care of herself and as well as her children. And then as well as I think Ronald Reagan, don't quote me, I can't give you the exact year, but Ronald Reagan during his presidency, he deemed our women as quote unquote welfare queens, because they were fine and comfortable within this system that allowed them to kind of remain complacent and receive funds from the government, from the state, and not make anything of themselves or to progress. So I'm interested in what you guys think about that. Excuse me. Either the man of the house rule in terms of how the government would do these periodical checks in a lot of these broken homes to see whether the father lived there or not, or as well as Ronald Reagan's perspective, which is very similar to Charles Murray's on women being complacent. So the quote unquote welfare queen. What do you guys think about that? Either you can speak to this first. It doesn't matter.
All right, so maybe I'm gonna double back what I said before. I don't know if I agree with it like wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Like with me, I'm a person who thinks about like factors. Like everything is like, every social situation is mostly faceted.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that puts a person in a certain predicament.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that these welfare system creates or makes a African American women comfortable in a situation, and just to depend on the government, I don't agree with it. I think there's a lot of factors that's putting that individual there. Sometimes it's even a lack of education to see certain opportunities. There's a lack of awareness. There's a lack of knowledge. Just to know different avenues or different ways, or trying to find a better career to get a better income. Because I feel like behind that statement is a statement of like, for lack of a better term, laziness. That they're lazy, or that we are lazy, that we don't do much, or we don't strive for things. Something that's been going on, that's been said about us, a stereotype that's been said about us for a long period of time, and I just don't agree with that. A lot of people, I think, who deal with poverty and who deal with just financial hardships, a lot of it comes from just a lack of knowledge. Just having a lack of opportunities, and just having just the awareness to kind of find out, like, all right, how can I make my situation better, or how can I even plan for a better situation?
Right.
And you just fall into these like constant traps. Just even it could just be lack of finance, just lack of managing, a lack of budget. You don't even know how you don't grow up with a financial advisor. You don't grow up with knowing about credit. You don't grow up with knowing about savings and budgeting and stuff like that. So you're constantly dealing with this financial hardships. So I would not agree with those statements.
Okay.
I'm real against. I'm against any argument that's tried to that says something in one sentence and tries to encompass this whole social problem.
Right. Right.
This one sentence and try to say, it's this reason they're making, it's welfare queens and stuff. It's just like,
right.
It's a total nonsense.
So do you think?
Go ahead. It's just like, how Ronald Reagan could say something like that. You know what I mean? It's just like what 15 years before the Civil Rights Act was just passed. You know what I mean? Like segregation was just, you can't expect a people that's been on, that's been dealing with excluded from everything, the society, just excluded from society, and ask them to, to perform equally like everybody else, or equally as whites. I just disagree with this.
Yeah. I had a point I was going to make, but I'll make the point after I let Mark speak. Mark, so what do you think about these terms, whether it's Ronald Reagan's welfare queens, quote unquote, or whether it is the quote unquote man of the house rule, where they were doing periodical random checks to ensure that no black man was living in the house? What do you think about those?
Yeah, I definitely think that was an insulting statement from Ronald Reagan. But at the same time, I think we're all being a bit biased towards these statements because we are black. If you consider the resources that we don't have access to, and then you consider the programs that are in place by the government to assist us, it doesn't make sense to say that we are not, or some of our community is not dependent on these systems. Our community is absolutely dependent on these systems because of the lack of resources. Now, when I say dependent, I'm not saying that in a disrespectful way. Dependent is it's not really an insult. It's a fact. A small percentage of our community is dependent on these programs to live. Just to get by.
Yeah.
And if they were to strip them tomorrow, it would be a huge uproar. It would be a huge issue in our community and other communities. So to say that we're not dependent on it would just be false, because it's a fact that there's many families that literally cannot live without these programs. Now, I'm not going to say that they're lazy. I'm going to say it's because of a lack of resources. They don't have the, like you said, like Jerome said, they don't have the financial education to better themselves when it comes to investing. They don't have the traditional education to, access to, let's say college. Maybe they didn't go to college. They didn't go to trade school. So they're limited in that aspect because they don't have the ability to get a higher paying job. So that makes them dependent on the system.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault, but the fact is they're dependent. We can't run away from that fact that they do need the program.
So, Mark, I hear what you're saying, and I think what you're saying has a lot of I think there's a lot of validity to what you're saying. But do you not think? Well, either you could answer this, whether it's Mark or Jerome. But do you not think that it's very problematic in a sense where you have a lot of people, whether they're in the Caucasian community, Latina community, Indian community, whatever, Asian community, whatever, and they're like, well, that's the problem with black people. They don't like to work. They don't like to do this. They don't like to do that. They just like to just sit on their asses and just receive government checks. Do you think that a lot of these programs just reinforce the discrimination and the racism that a lot of people speak upon us in regards to the narratives that are formed?
It's interesting because I can't really pull out the exact percentage, but isn't the percent of white people that use government assistance more than black people?
Absolutely. I found that in my research. Absolutely.
So that's the thing. It shows that not only are some black communities dependent on the system, some white communities are dependent on the system. So this isn't even a color thing anymore. This is just a poor thing.
Yeah. I agree with that statement.
I agree with that too.
I agree with that, but I would say this, not to play devil's advocate, but even though like when you say bias, I think we should be. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being. We should always look at a situation from my point of view. I mean, you should be objective.
Absolutely.
You should always look at like as black people look from my point of view. Secondly, I think I don't know if families necessarily need or to survive. Like we won't be able to survive without it, because correct me if I'm not wrong, I think all these services came after World War II, or after
yes,
FDR, the New Deal and stuff like that, and providing all these services.
Absolutely.
What happened after the Great Depression and stuff.
You are right.
And black people were kind of fairly well, not well, but like we depended on each other.
Right.
There was more camaraderie amongst us when we didn't have these services.
Absolutely.
So I feel like So I feel like No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just coming along in my research prior to recording this episode with both of you gentlemen, from what I've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure a lot of the sources that I looked into were pretty accurate. The welfare system in itself was created and intended to help poor white people in order to assist them in during the hard times of the war when a lot of their men went overseas to fight for this country. So, and then it transitioned and became a life of its own in regards to the African American community, and it just kind of, I don't know, spiraled out of there, or it's kind of crazy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you guys, and I appreciate the the facts when based on when these programs were implemented.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter when they were implemented though, because once you condition someone to getting something, they will be dependent on it. It doesn't matter what you did before; they could have been independent before, but once you get them hooked on the system, they're stuck for life. Like, you could have been sober your whole life, but you get addicted to drugs, you are officially dependent on that drug. It doesn't matter how you were 20 years ago. So the effect is happening now, and we can't say people can live without it, because if we stripped everyone in New York from public government assistance, hell would break loose. People would be starved. I mean, if we think there's people starving now, people on the trains begging for food and different things like that, it would be 100 times worse, because people truly do need these programs at this point. Like, it's their way of life. If someone's conditioned to getting a check once a month, they plan around that check. Strip them of that check, people are going hungry.
But Mark, I totally am in agreement with a lot of what you're saying, and I respect your perspective. But shouldn't the hope or the intention of our community be to eventually to whether it be to dismantle or to eventually make our ways out of the system? You know what I'm saying? Haven't we suffered long enough? Wouldn't we want to eventually get to a point where in 100 or 200 years from now, black folks in general are thriving and don't have to depend on these government assistance programs?
I mean, that would be the hope. That would be what we want. But I mean, what's the plan? If no one's got a plan, it's not going to happen. It's a nice dream. It sounds great, but how are we going to do it? We can say, wouldn't it be great if we got off it? But how are you going to get off? A drug addict can say, it would be great if I got off, but he doesn't know how he's going to get off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that easy. We can't just say, just stay on the program for a couple months and you got to get off, man. They're not thinking that way. I mean, what are we giving them financial education with this check, or are we just giving them the check? If they're just getting the check, we're not helping. We're just spoon feeding and walking away. But if the check is coming with a program based, financial education, a way to find, to increase your skill set to get a better job, then we're really helping. But that's just like if you see a homeless person and you give him a sandwich. You helped him for the day, but you didn't help him for life, because you did nothing for him but fill his stomach. You have to feed his mind.
Before we move on, do you want to add any last second thoughts to that question and topic, Jerome?
Oh, no.
Okay, cool. Excellent. All right, gentlemen. So just two more questions left. All right, we're moving along pretty good here. So my fourth question, I'm gonna start off with matter of fact, let me start off with Mark first. I want Jerome to get the last question. Matter of fact, no, I take that back. Let me start off with Jerome first, because I want Jerome to get the last question last. All right. So okay. So Jerome. So my question 4 is: should there be more? All right. Should there be more of an emphasis to circulate? Oh, man. Matter of fact, before I read the question, I would just like to say this. We have moved into our second segment of this episode. I apologize, Wise Community, which is called The Black Dollar. I know this is going to get Mark very frustrated and angry, all right? The Black Dollar. So, Jerome, the question again is, should there be more of an emphasis to circulate the black dollar within our own communities? For example, black banking and black banking and black-owned businesses. What do you think? Should there be more of an emphasis to circulate the black dollar within our own communities? Because you see guys, you see guys such as Dr. Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed, even Michael Eric Dyson. Like a lot of these upstanding educated brothers speak a lot on I forget his name. You know who I'm talking about, leader of Nation of Islam. Farrakhan, yeah, Minister Farrakhan, right. A lot of these men talk about, the Asian community, their dollar circulates within their community for 30 days, within their communities, within their neighborhoods, within their businesses, before it leaves the community. Same for the Indian community as well, if I'm not mistaken. But the black community, a lot of these men say and argue, is the only community where our spending power does not stay directly with us. It immediately goes to consumer products outside of our own communities. What do you think?
First of all, I agree with them wholeheartedly, 100%. I do believe that the black dollar should circulate more in our own communities. We should have more of an interest, not to say in ourselves, but that's what I'm trying to say. We should have a real financial interest in our own communities and investing in our own people. I don't mean to say people because we're all Americans anyway. Right. But I do agree with that thing. That's much I can say. I can't even add anything more to that.
That's fine. So yeah, Mark, I know Mark's going to have something to say about the same question. Should there be more of an should there be more of an emphasis to circulate the black dollar within our own communities? Black-owned businesses and baking black. We actually had a discussion about this recently.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the whole the emphasis on the black dollar and circulating the black dollar around our communities and building black businesses, it all sounds very nice and it sounds very cute. But at the end of the day, the emphasis should be on building wealth. I mean, how does circulating the dollar in my community increase my wealth faster? Why am I focusing on one group? If I'm an entrepreneur, I'm focusing on the world. For me to say I want to build my business and only service one type of person, I am limiting my earning potential. I'm stagnating my growth. Why would you want to, isolate yourself economically? I'm all for everyone building wealth. I'm for everyone investing. I'm for everyone building businesses. But when you focus on one group, you're making a big mistake when it comes to actually, increasing your wealth and increasing your earning potential. It sounds great to have black-owned businesses. It sounds great to have a black economy, but what is the real economical benefit other than just saying I have a black-owned business? It sounds cute, but what is the benefit?
To get to where everyone else is in terms of class standing? No.
I mean, I think that shows community. You go to you go to any community. You go to any community, and there's a lot of ownership. Like if you're in a Spanish place, there's laundromats, there's grocery stores, there's corner grocery stores, there's places that provide services for phones and selling phones and stuff like that. There's restaurants, and it's just there's people that don't even decide to speak English. They just stay in their community. They're just here. I don't even have there's no business for me to even leave there. I don't find that in the black community. I don't find those things. I feel like we should have those interests in ourselves, because everybody else do it. I don't see what's the difference between us. And now, if our product and if our services are so good that it makes other people want to come, then great. But I feel like we should come first. That's just that's how I feel.
But what is the benefit to your wealth? I understand the community benefit. I understand the community benefit because I understand, if you're raising a child in a certain area, you want them to be able to see that we have businesses we have, resources, but what is the benefit to your wealth?
So the wealth won't be a financial wealth. It will be a social wealth. It won't be a financial wealth. It'll definitely be a social wealth because it's not gonna benefit everybody individually, but it'll be a social wealth. It'll be something. It'll be camaraderie amongst each other, and that's something that's very important. That's what makes a people. That's what makes a community, and I find that to be important.
I respect that.
Okay.
But at this point, as a black man, no, seriously, as a black man, my main objective is to build wealth and to build it as fast as possible for my family and future generations. I am not concerned about building a community right now. You know what I mean? I'm willing to build my wealth and teach other brothers how to do the same, but I'm not concerned about these social constructs that you're mentioning because I don't see the benefit to my great-grandchildren. The benefit to my mind or your mind. Great, I have a black bank, but what the hell is that doing for me? You know what I mean? It's about the dollar at the end of the day. You can't pass down good memories, but you can pass down wealth, and that's the only thing I can focus on because, it feels good to have a black-owned business, a black community with resources, but it's not doing anything for your family.
I don't agree. I feel like it has a lot of benefits. It has a lot of benefits because these are the same people who can help generations. These are the same people that dollar circulating or who was ever accumulating that wealth in the community says, maybe this family needs help or maybe this family needs assistance. Let's provide this assistance for them. Let this community provide this assistance for this certain individual or this certain family that we see amongst other people. May they be Jews, may they be, Chinese or Japanese, where, they put, certain people provide services for other people who are coming in or other people in the community. I feel like this real, capitalist way of thinking of, this, we got to do it on ourselves. We got this individualistic way of thinking of finances, let's obtain as much wealth as possible just for me and my own. I think that is kind of detrimental to the African American community. But I think that is extremely important as a person and as an individual, just as a human being. You should strive for stuff like that. But I think that I just believe that's just detrimental for just the African American community.
I agree with that. Me personally, it's not just me as an individual. There's always a team involved. But I can see that. I can see what you're saying. But at this point, the way the economy is constructed, that way of thinking will not build substantial wealth. Gosh, that worked in the 60s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That worked in the 50s and 60s, but now this is an era of, it's the internet era. You have the ability to engage in commerce with anyone across the globe. So if you're focusing on one 10-block radius, you're losing. You know what I mean? But I can totally understand what you're saying when it comes to the social impact. But, when you're talking about helping the community and people lending a hand, this person needs help, stuff like that. That worked in the 40s and 50s, but I feel like it's just the economy is so wide open now. You have access to the world and to focus on the small bubble. Yeah, but I totally feel what you're saying, definitely.
Yeah, I feel what both of you guys are saying. I think personally, that there's no real, let's be honest, I really think that there's no really true right or wrong answer to this question, only because it really all depends on what your mindset is as a person, and also depends on what your beliefs are and the nature of, what your planned outlooks are as people. And, if that's a cause that Mark is not really down for, and I'm not saying Mark doesn't care about his people. That's not what I'm saying, West Community. I want to make that, very known and clear. I'm saying that if that's that's a perspective that Mark is not on, because he's looking at all the numbers and he's breaking them down, and he's seeing an infograph of, like, you know, how that affects the long-term development of our people as a whole. Then of course I'm going to focus on my family, and of course I'm going to focus on building my generational wealth, because I want to make sure that, you know, my family is good, you know, because, you know, if not, you know, I'm just going to be like everyone else who's kind of like, you know, like a dead fish in water, you know what I'm saying, or a struggling fish in water that's trying to come up, you know, trying to go down for air, you know. So and similar to, you know, going back to also Jerome himself, I think Jerome's perspective is pretty good too, because it's like, how long, and I think I talked about it earlier, how long can we as Black folks, you know, stay within this bubble and continue to deal with a lot of this stuff, you know. So I think that's really good. Jerome, what you got going over there, man? I hear a lot of rustling, bro. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good, man. You're fine. But how are you guys doing so far? We got one final question. You guys ready for it?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yep.
Excellent. Alrighty. So the final question of the day, you know, it's another one. Mark, I'm going to start with you first, because again, I want Jerome to get the last word. Is the Black community mismanaging their spending/investments? Again, is the Black community mismanaging their spending/investments? And I wish I had my laptop open, but I currently don't. But I was looking at an article on Black Enterprise, and the article pretty much, in essence, was saying that, you know, that African Americans are the contributors to 1.3 trillion. We contribute 1.3 trillion in spending dollars to the system itself, to commerce, in regards to just mass consumerism, and that's us as Black people. Our 1.3 trillion spending habit, you know, is pretty much, it makes up a lot of the economy in terms of, like, you know, products that are consumed. And, you know, I can go from everything from sports to games and everything, but that's where to retail, but that's where a lot of our money is going into. So apparently, you know, whether the Black dollar exists or not, you know, we are contributing the most in regards to this matter, but we make up on average 12 to 14% of the population in this country. So Mark, again, to start off with you, is the Black community mismanaging their spending/investments? What do you think?
Well, I would say absolutely, but like you said, it's America itself is a consumer-based economy. We overconsume everything. You know, we overspend everything. The average American has less than $1,000 saved. That's the average American. Now, I'm not even talking Black yet. I don't have those statistics. They may be a bit scarier, but it just shows you, you know, what the country looks like as a whole, and especially when it comes to us. I mean, we have this romantic relationship with brands that have nothing to do with our community. You know, all three of us, we are probably wearing a shirt right now that is not Black owned. You know, it's not a Black owned business. It's not a Black owned brand. You know, it's just that we just have this materialistic mentality. Not all of us, but a large percentage of us for sure. And I feel like it's really hard to break that. And it's really funny because I watched a video a little while back, and it was a video that was created in the 70s. No, actually, I'm sorry. I think it was the 60s. And it was how to sell to the Negro, right? And you guys can look this up. It's a very interesting video. And they basically describe that in order to sell to the Negro in your store, you have to basically speak to his pride. He says the Negro has, this is the exact quote, the Negro has very low self-esteem, and they want to feel important. They want to feel special. They want to feel as if they have money and wealth, even though they don't. So it just shows that how we think and the thoughts that we're passing down to our children. You know, that you are not special, or you are not cool if you do not own these brands. You know, you have kids teasing each other in school. Why do you have those sneakers? Those sneakers are whack. You need to get these Jordans. It just goes back and forth all day long, and we fight with each other about these things. But at the end of the day, it's just we're teaching our children that you're nothing without these brands. You have little babies riding in the carriage with Jordans on. They don't know what a Jordan is, but they will in a few years. They'll see that I'm only worth something if I'm wearing clothes worth something. So it's very interesting the way we think. You know, I can go on and on to even the cars we drive. We drive cars that we can't afford just to look like we have money or look like we're important. Or we want to feel good because life is short. Mm-hmm. Life is short, but I mean, life is long when you're poor.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Every day is hard. So I'd rather, you know, sacrifice now so that life can be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not going to say building wealth is easy. It's hard as hell. But we just have to sacrifice, man. We have to throw these brands away. We just have to grind in the dirt. And not saying we aren't grinding, but it's tough, man, because everybody's got different situations. So I don't want to speak as if everything's easy, but you know, that was a lot of words, but I think I'll end it there.
No, I think that's good. I'm actually wearing this fly fleece Nautica sweatshirt right now, but it was a gift, my brother, for the holidays. It was a gift. No, it was a gift. It was a gift. It was a gift. Sammy got it. Sammy got it for me for Christmas. I've never had a Nautica before, and I'm not gonna lie to you. The moment I got it, I opened up the present. I was like, "Wow, Nautica!" I was like, "Come on, Kevin, come on, don't do it, my brother, don't do it, my brother." So when the moment Mark brought it up, yes, it was good, man. The moment Mark brought it up, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm Nautica out." It feels good though, man. It's crazy, man. Yeah, I want to get off the subject, man. They're gonna be like, "You're not a real wise guy." Jerome, I'm gonna throw it to you. Same question: is the black community mismanaging their spending and investments?
I just add on. It's definitely true. Definitely. I mean, as Americans, you know, we squander all our, you know, our finances, and there's just such a lack of like financial education. Mm-hmm. I've been so invested for these last couple of months, just learning about finances and stuff like that, and it's just how uneducated we are. You know, I see it from family members, I see it from my close relatives, even myself sometimes, and I see it, you know, just reading on things. That's the truth. You know, a lot of people don't even have enough savings. You know, they probably they don't even have $1,000. Some don't even have a savings account.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, you live check by check.
Yeah.
You know, you talk to so many young kids about debt, credit cards, and there's not enough. Just we haven't been educated on it. And I remember I forgot this man's name. He went to prison, but he started learning about finances and stuff. I don't know if y'all ever saw it.
Oh no, I don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. But he said something that was really. Yeah, exactly. He said something that was really profound. And he said, like, you know, like, the war's been lost a long time. You know? It's been lost. You know, and he's like, we have to try, you know, new ways of kind of educating ourselves and stuff. But, and knowing what money is, like, understanding what money is, you know? Understanding the value of money and what is it connected to. And, like, I feel like we don't educate, you know, ourselves, our children, and our loved ones about that. I've just seen people squander their life away.
Right.
You know, because so much of finance is connected with, some people say, with your emotional state.
Yeah, it's true. You know? Absolutely.
You know, it's imbalance and stuff like that. So, you know, there's a lot saying there. There's a lot saying. So I definitely agree with that. Definitely, 100%. I have no opposition to that whatsoever.
For sure. All right, gentlemen. So we're going to. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Mark. Yeah, go ahead. Go get it in, man.
The thing about, you know, financial education as a whole. Everyone says, you know, why isn't financial education taught in schools? I mean, there's a big reason why financial education isn't taught in schools. It's because of the reason that we just said. This economy is based off of overconsumption. Now, if everybody receives financial education, the overconsumption stops, the economy slows to a halt, and now we have a terrible, slow economy that is almost stagnant, not moving. It's slow. The reason why, you know, America's been so successful over the past, you know, 50 to 100 years, just because of that overconsumption. People stop consuming, this won't be the country that it is. We won't have the massive opportunity. There's a reason why, you know, there's so many millionaires made in a day now. It's just because people are buying. That's all they do is buy. And it's mostly through credit.
Yeah.
You know, financial education can't be taught to everybody because it would just have a detrimental effect on the economy. And even the people that are investing, it's a possibility that they're investing wrong, because anybody can put their money into something, but if you don't understand the market, you will eventually lose.
Right.
You've got people blindly investing into their 401k, not knowing exactly what these funds are. You know, that's basically pumping the stock price with essentially what they call quote unquote dumb money. People that don't know what they're doing, but they're just putting money into an investment. It's just, you know, we have to stop, you know, trying to get advice from everybody, and we need to actually research things for ourselves, because your financial advisor, his job is to sell you investments. His job is not to get you the best return most of the time. You know, it's a conflict of interest. If I get paid based off of how much money you invest, a lot of people are going to say, I'm taking your money regardless, man. What you want to put your money into? It's tough, man. And I feel everybody's got a different, you know, investment philosophy. But the way I think is we have to stay away from investments that focus on appreciation, like stocks. You know, things that we're saying, I'm putting my money into this and I hope it goes up based off of some information. I feel like we need to focus on investments, you know, in passive income producing assets. Because once you put your money into something like that, it's going to pay you for the rest of your life. And it can appreciate at that. So it's just, we just have to really, it's just going to be about research, man. And, you know, we can always say they don't teach us this knowledge in school, but you have a device in your hand that can search the internet and give you any information that you want. So what is the excuse? Laziness? What is it? We don't know. You know, we're so you know, confused and distracted through entertainment, whether it's rap and these different shows on TV and what movies on Netflix and what show season I'm going to watch. We forget that there's actual free information that can improve our lives on the internet.
Yeah.
And as long as they have us tied in that loop, we will never seek that knowledge.
Yeah.
It's just it's a sad thing, man, and we have to expand our knowledge. And you expand your knowledge by losing and winning. I mean, more losing than anything. I mean, I've learned so much from my losses than wins. So I feel like we have to be willing to risk our capital to learn. You can't learn just by reading either. You see, that's the thing. A lot of people will say, I'm getting into investments, and they'll read 10 books and never invest $1.
Right.
Well, you just wasted that entire thing that you read. If you're going to read something, read it and apply it. Because if you never try it, you're just reading books. You're just a hobby reader. You're just in the corner just reading all this knowledge. It's going to waste. So, man, it's just it's a system in place for sure, and we've got to be aware of it to break it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. All right, gentlemen.
Crazy, I don't think the system can be broken, but a few people can wiggle their way out of it.
Yeah, definitely agree.
All right, gentlemen. So we're going to transition to our final segment of the day, which is called Word to the Wise. Mark, would you like to start off first with Word to the Wise, or I can go first? I already have a word. I don't know what you want to do.
Okay, yeah, you can grab them. I gotta think of something.
All right, for sure. So my word to the wise today would be conscious. All right, so conscious would be my word to the wise, for many reasons. So again, we talked about the black dollar, and we talked about government assistance programs, at the earlier on in the show. And the reason why I bring up the word conscious is because the older you get, right? So you can, it's not your fault that you were born into a dysfunctional household. It's not your fault that you were born into a single-parent household where mommy didn't have enough to provide for you, and she used her government checks once a month to kind of, help you get on by. It's not your fault that you were born into a community, filled with people on, food stamps or Section 8 housing, and you're like, woe is me, like, I really don't like my life, or I don't like where I'm living at, but I want to give a shout out to Jerome on this, because years ago, I remember he talked about this in a conversation with me, actually at Queensboro. He was saying, it's not your fault that you were born into the predicament or the circumstance you find yourself in, but the older you get, when you become a full-fledged adult and you're 20, 25, 30, there comes a point in time where you have to be held accountable for your actions. And there comes a point in time where you need to be conscious and wary of how the system is set up to not have you succeed and to have you fail and to not prosper financially, spiritually, economically, and however have you'd like to place it. All right, so I say that to say, be conscious of all the decisions you make. If I buy these pair of sneakers, what is it really going to do for me? Oh, is this inflating my ego? Oh, I'm just going to look cool? What did I really get out of this investment? Maybe I could put $10 every single week in a piggy bank and save that for a college fund or something more lucrative or important to my growth as a person. Something that, guarantees or pretty much gives me a positive ROI, return on investment. So just be conscious of all the decisions you make, and just know that it's not going to be easy. I mean, even people such as myself right now, sometimes, I try to be very conscious, but I'm like, come on, Kev, did you really need that sandwich right now, my brother? You got a couple of things you got to put money into. Like, did you really need that? You could have cooked your own food. You know what I'm saying? Come on, bro. Did you really need to buy 5 Subway sandwiches this week? Why didn't you meal prep? You know how to cook now. I mean, it took you 26 years, but that's another story. But you know how to cook now, man. Like, why don't you just make yourself your own food so that way you're able to just do your thing, and get to the, eat your food at work, get to the gym, and you work out, and now that's, benefiting all aspects of your life. You know what I'm saying? Physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be. So we just got to be wise, and we got to be conscious of all the decisions we make. Mark, what's your word to the wise today?
I'll say that my word is sacrifice. It's just we just have to be willing to. We've got to be willing to look poor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like our people aren't willing to look poor. We're poor and we aren't willing to look poor. Come on, man, play your role. If you were poor, why would you? No, it's true.
Yeah.
Poor, and I consider myself poor because I'm not a 1%. I'm not rich. If you're poor, why am I wearing the same clothes as a rich man? I should be allocating my funds to build something to eventually get rich or get something that I can pass down to my children.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, even around Christmas time, stuff like this now, we have people in poor areas that are spending thousands of dollars on Christmas.
I couldn't believe
on clothes and toys and gifts. I mean, listen, if you're poor,
I couldn't believe it, man.
The kids should know you're poor. Sorry, kids, no gifts this year, man. We're investing. You know what I mean?
I thought about that. I don't want to interrupt your word to the wise. I want you to keep talking. I just want to say I think it was just mind-boggling for me going into a lot of these stores and see people crambling, getting stuff for their kids, and then putting on social media. I got 6 gifts for my son this year. As his mama, I had to do my thing. He's going to be very happy. It's like, wait, what? But you're poor, though. But continue on, Mark.
Do they want to be rich? Do they want to be rich, Kev?
Right.
It's a dream, but do they want it? It's like we cry poor, but we're buying crazy amounts of things for Christmas.
Right.
Thanksgiving, the table is full. Listen, bro, if I start a family
yeah.
and I'm poor, I'm being serious.
I know.
If I start a family and I'm poor, when Christmas time comes, I'm going to say, kids, we're poor. We're not getting anything. We're investing. We're putting money into something that's going to pay you later.
Right.
I'm sorry your childhood's going to suck, but listen, we're poor. Why are we afraid to be poor? We're afraid to look poor.
Right.
Hey, Kev, I didn't get my kids anything this year. What? Like, everybody looks at you like you're crazy.
I didn't get
my kid anything for his birthday. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, if I'm poor, I'm poor. Let's be willing to look poor and grind and invest, man.
I didn't get anyone anything this year, Mark, and I didn't feel bad about it. I said, hey, I'm poor right now. It's going to change.
That's what I'm saying. And there's nothing wrong with that, man.
Right.
It's just like, listen, I'm playing my role, and what is a poor man supposed to do? He has to build his way up. Why am I putting on a rich costume when I'm poor? It makes no sense.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me, last thing I want to say before we head to Jerome, you see them all the time in the subway, right, guys? Like, and again, I'm not saying this to bash people. It's just a mindset I'm just trying to shed light on to get us out of. Like, you see a whole bunch of dudes, in the train station, no matter what metropolitan city in America you live in, and they got on naughty, they got on the Gucci belts, the polo fleece hoodie, and the illest Pradas or Balenciagas on their feet, and they're like, yo, can I get a swipe, bro? Yo, can you get me on the train? It's like, dude, you got all this designer on. You can't even get a swipe on a train? It's crazy.
It's crazy. We're poor, but we're afraid to look poor. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen, man.
Right.
We have to sacrifice, destroy that mindset. We forget we're poor almost. We have this nice stuff and we forget we're poor.
Yeah.
We think we're rich.
Right.
It makes no sense.
It's like you said on I think it was episode 18 with our boy Jermaine. Shout out to Jermaine. When you were like, you pull up in a Honda, everyone's like, okay, cool, but then you pull up in a Benz, everyone's like, wow.
But yeah, you get addicted to that wow, man.
Right.
You want to hear it.
Right.
You want that recognition, man.
Yeah, man. Excellent, man. Excellent. And Jerome, what's your word to the wise today?
My word to the wise today, I would say enthusiasm. And the reason why I say enthusiasm is because I feel like, we get caught up in our daily lives sometimes. If we're working a 9 to 5, or if we have, and it kind of stops us from our goals. Enthusiasm is something, that makes you push towards a goal, that makes you do the things that are meaningful to you and things that you're interested. Like, when a writer writes, it's enthusiasm he writes for. When a financial person or a lawyer does something and he's trying to be, it's enthusiasm that he goes for. These are certain characteristics that I find to be successful people have.
Yeah.
Whatever skill they're pursuing and stuff like that is done with enthusiasm. It's done with a certain amount of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, and this can't be while you're in this life and in the time you're on this earth, you should have it, live with some enthusiasm. You enjoy it, persevere, learn, fail, succeed, but just have some enthusiasm. Wake up in the morning with some patience to get things done.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, I like that, man.
Me too. That's pretty good. Yeah, you need enthusiasm even to be
drive,
right.
Yeah,
I was about to say
drive,
that.
Man.
Yeah.
You gotta be fired up.
Yeah. Wow. No, well, Jerome, on the behalf of Mark and I, man, we want to thank you for coming on, brother. Seriously, this was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bro, it was a blessing. This was a blessing. I really mean it genuinely. Thank y'all. Thank you for having me.
No, for sure.
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely, for sure, man, for sure. Jerome, before we let you go, though, man, couple of last-minute things. First and foremost, could you let the wise community out there, the wise guys and the wise gals of our community, could you let them know where can they possibly reach you, just in case they want to ask you a question or just in case they want to tell you thank you for coming on and for providing some wise words for us?
Well, you can always reach me on Instagram. I'm mostly on there most of the time, promoting my stuff. So, I go by my name, John Davis, which is John Davis 1791. That's named after my father. Mm-hmm. So you can always reach me if you have any questions.
Excellent. Yeah, for sure. Excellent. No, thank you so much. Man, now this was really, really, really great. Again, Wise Community, we bring on guests to this platform that we know that can provide words of encouragement, words of wisdom, and words that can truly empower and impact your life, okay? So please be sure to contact Jerome. Hit him up, whether it is a DM or text, if it's a DM, just make sure you're DMing him during business hours, all right? Because he got a lady, all right? So ladies, that's yeah. DM him during business hours, send him a word, let him know how you feel, and just, be sure to, not just Jerome, but all of our guests, be sure to show them the love and the appreciation for coming onto the show, because, again, it is not easy to get a lot of these, folks on the show because, they're so busy, as we all are with our lives. So when a guy like, and Jerome had already scheduled with us, but we had to reschedule due to some complications on his end. So anytime we get a chance to spend an hour or 2 hours, having a conversation with these guys is very, very, very well needed, and it's really and it's appreciated. So that's our show for this week, Wise Community. All right, our next episode next week, episode 22, will be Is It Because I'm Black? Again, it'll be Is It Because I'm Black? And we're actually talking to a pretty cool educator by the name of Dre Coleman, who's going to really drop some knowledge upon us. Right, Mark?
Yeah, man, 100%.
For sure. Absolutely. So it's going to be a really good one. It's going to be a really good one, Wise Community, so prepare for it. So please, find us online. We're streaming on all platforms, all right? Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, YouTube, I think I'm missing one. Oh, yeah, SoundCloud. All right, so find us online, leave a review, and please, if you really enjoy the podcast, please be sure to share, and send the link to a friend, whether it's this episode or any episodes in the past that you know a friend would appreciate. Please be sure to share with them. And on Instagram, we're Wise Guys NYC. On Twitter, we're Wise Guys NYC as well. And on Facebook, we're The Wise Guys NYC, all right? And you could also drop us an email. Send us an email at thewiseguysnyc@gmail.com. All right. So as I said, Wise Community, at the beginning of the podcast, this is your boy Kevin Anglade,
and this is Mark Pruden,
and we are the Wise Guys Podcast. And oh man, before we see you all next week, I forgot to add my homeboy, and we are joined by our very special guest,
Jerome Davis.
And again, we are the Wise Guys Podcast. I messed all that up. We'll see you all next week.